Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. In today's video, we're going to go over the Pro Tour New Jersey and kind of just give my thoughts and reflections on it and kind of how I thought the event went, kind of where the game's going from a meta perspective, and really just overall, like just fun reactions and stuff like that. Nothing too crazy or serious, but I figured it'd be a cool thing to talk about, and I would love to hear y'all's comments down below on what you thought of the event. I personally cannot attend the event. As much as I love this game, work and life gets priority sometimes, so I couldn't travel. But it's all good. I'm gonna try to go to Vegas if I can, and continue doing my local stuff. But all good. So getting into it, the first thing I wanted to go over was like metagame breakdown, kind of go over how day 1 and day 2 went for the event, and then also look at the calling and see if there was any differences, and then look at the top 8, talk about top 8, and then maybe talk about some deck lists, just like overarching really quick. So not too long of a video, but that's what we're gonna go over. So this is day 1 of the Pro Tour New Jersey, and as we can already see, Bravo, star of the show, really stole the show, no pun intended, with how much he showed up. We were expecting this. Any other player that's plays this game pretty substantially at a competitive level knew that Starvo was going to be one of the main heroes, kind of going, being the main one. I think I personally expected a little bit more Chain, and we'll see that when we go to the calling numbers, that Chain was a little bit more represented. But I thought with the recent success and kind of just game popularity that Chain was getting, I thought you'd see Chain maybe like in the 100 time frame. Like maybe he'd steal some of the other like Briars and maybe even a couple of the Katsus or something like that, and really just be a little bit more represented. But other than that, nothing crazy. Prism was kind of where it was expected to be. Briar was a little bit more. I know Briar's really good, top deck in the game. Obviously, he plays top 4, but I thought there'd be a little bit more, or really a little bit, a little bit more. Lexi was really well represented, which is really nice to see. Yuki was one of my favorite players to watch. If you haven't watched her gameplays on their stream, go to Twitch, like Channel Fireball, and look at the VODs and just watch Yuki play. Unreal. She started 9-1, didn't finish as strong, but it just sometimes you'll go and get lucky. But her Ice Lexi, which really it's kind of like a hybrid aggro light Ice Lexi build, was just really good. Oldheim was actually more represented than I thought he'd be, because he just doesn't do well into Prism, and he does do well in some of the aggro decks, and Chain's kind of a toss up, but then he's kind of a worse Starvo in my opinion. I don't know. I just didn't think he'd do as Oldheim would be as more represented as he was. Dash kind of on par. I was expecting a couple more Katsus, and I'm really sad that Katsu didn't do as well as he could have. I think there's just too much Starvo running around to make him be consistent over the course of the whole tournament. Kano showed up, only 7 Kanos in the whole tournament, and most of them made day 2, and 2 of them made the top 8. So that testing group of Brendan and Hayden and Sasha and all them just went crazy. So kudos to them. So this was day 1. Getting into day 2, as we can see, 7 of the 4 Kanos, like I just said, made day 2. So over half the Kanos that were in the field made day 2. About half the Starvos made day 2. Chain had a pretty significant drop off, right? We had 80 chains in day 1 and only 36 made day 2. So not bad. Conversion rate, obviously really good, but not as good as some of the other heroes. Prism had a good conversion rate, 57 to 36. Briar did not have a very good conversion rate, right? 22 Briars, only 6 of them made day 2. Wrong way. Oldheim, okay conversion rate, 14 to 5. The Lexis didn't have as good of a conversion rate, 20 Lexis and only 3 made day 2, and 2 of them were Yuki, and I forgot the other one's name. Sorry, forgive me, but they're both really talented Lexi players. So like the cream of the crop of Lexis made it. 4 Boltons made it through, which is pretty nutty because he's not even on this list. So that pretty much means all the Boltons that came in made it through for the most part. And 1 Viserai, 1 lone Viserai made day 2, and 1 lone Viserai one lone Rhinar made day 2. No Katsu on here. A couple dashes did make it through, so okay conversion rate. I guess some of the like underperformers for conversion were Briar. Katsu didn't convert well. Lexi didn't convert well. But the good ones were Kano converted really well for the amount of players they had. Bolton converted really well. And obviously Prism converted really well. So, that's how that pretty much went. And you can kind of see the inner circle versus the outer circle and like the conversions from that. I love how they showed that. So you can kind of get an idea of who converted and how. So overall pretty expected though. So how that compare to the calling, right? So that's calling day 2. So here's the calling day 1. As you can see, a lot more chains in comparison to the chains in the Pro Tour. This is kind of like where I expected the percentage of chains to be in the Pro Tour, honestly. A lot of Lexis, and then a lot of Briars as well, and then a pretty good amount of Viserai still, right? 36 Katsus. What I take away from this list without going through the whole thing is I wonder how many people saw what was happening in the Pro Tour and then played in the calling, like with a different list, maybe a list they also brought, or how many people dropped into the calling and went into this, because that's why I think there's more Lexis personally, and there's a little bit more chains, is some of the people that dropped played in the calling, and then some people also maybe saw a list and like, you know, had multiple decks with them and they came into the calling with this deck. I don't know. But definitely more than you would think. 1 Benji and 1 Kasai, which is actually hilarious if that's like accurate. That's pretty funny. How the calling day 2 go. So what's crazy from this, and this is so sad. So there were 36 Katsus, not one made day 2, which granted the day 2 cutoff was pretty high, but like that's nuts. Only 23 chains out of 118 made it through, so 1 out of every 5, right? Lexi had a horrible conversion, right? Over 65 Lexis and only 6 made day 2. Briar didn't have a good conversion. A lot of the heroes didn't have great conversions, but overall, like pretty on par. The top 3 heroes, you know, stayed the top 3 heroes. But yeah, so nothing too crazy from this. The calling was won by a Starvo, which put him at Living Legend, thank God. And so that's how that went. So here's how the top 8 went for the Pro Tour. I don't have the top 8 listed for the calling, but the calling I think was a Starvo versus I think it was Starvo v Briar. No, Starvo. I forgot who Starvo played against, but Starvo won it. I didn't watch it personally, but I know Starvo won it, and that's what put him at Living Legend. But for the top 8 in New Jersey, as you can see, 2 Kanos in the top 8, right? 3 Starvos, a Chain, a Prism, a Briar. So the Kanos really showed up, right? Out of the 7 Kanos that showed up to the whole event, 2 of them made top 8. That's pretty insane. They played wonderfully. Like, that list is insane. I mean, there was a couple games on stream where the other player had 30 health and the Kano still won. So, like 30 health presenting lethal to the Kano, and the Kano won. So it's just nuts that the type of damage that deck can pull out. If you're granted, you have to have an amazing pilot, and those people tested. So kudos to them. Prism didn't show up as much. I think that's just because of all the Starvo running around. I think it's a hard matchup for Prism personally. If the Starvo is playing lottery and fuses really well and forces cards from hand, the Prism has to play really well in order to win. The one takeaway I had from Starvos, at least the Starvos I watched, is there weren't a lot of control Starvos in this calling, which is really interesting to me. Granted, all the chain running around, right? I guess they were playing to the mirror more, but like with all the chain and Briar running around, you think they would have had a control package in their sideboard, but I didn't see a lot of it. I didn't see a lot of turn timbers or like defense reactions, or this them playing like more control style that we kind of saw at the last calling, where we saw a little bit more control-y based Starvos. This was a little more lottery based Starvos, or aggressive Starvos, I guess the best way to put it. So that was really interesting. The list from Jacob and Briar, and we'll go over here in a second, which is amazing. It was a great list. Played it really well. Couple interesting choices, not in a bad way, but just stuff I didn't expect, which is really dope. And the chain that won, right? It doesn't show the finals here, but Pablo won on the bottom side of the bracket and Florin won on the top. And then Pablo ended up winning the final with his chainless. He also made 1 or 2 choices that were not bad choices at all, just something I haven't seen a whole lot with chain. So we'll kind of get into that. So congrats to him. This is Pablo's list. He's running all the similar reds that you would see people run, right? Nothing to talk about there. I'm not going to go through a deck tech here, but the one thing about his list that really intrigued me was he was running yellow belittles. I don't see that a whole lot in chains, at least not recently. It's usually just the reds. But he's still only running 5 Minnowisms, right? So he didn't up his Minnowism count, but he did up his belittle count, so he could keep going to get Minnowism. I would love to know his thoughts on that. My assumption is go to get pitch, to be able to deal with maybe, more the hand disruption he's getting, or it has to, go wider. Like, that's another thing. The yellow lead the charges is really cool. I'm surprised he didn't go with like blue lead or red lead the charges, because it's 1 or greater, right? Not 0 or greater. But I'm sure there's a reason for that. The yellow mauve skies is also a really good addition. Usually you just see the blues, but adding the yellow helps him again go a little bit more wider, really making some conscious decisions to be more aggro based. And he's running 3 yellow bounding demigons, which most of the the net deck chain lists you're seeing lately run just one, maybe 2, but most of the time they just run 1 yellow. He ran all 3, so that was really interesting. Tome of Findall has been really popular as of late, so nothing crazy there. And then on the blue side, he's running 1 blue Seeping Shadows, which you don't see a whole lot. A lot of people are running the yellow, I think. So really interesting choice there. But overall, great list. Definitely built to go wide, to build to deal with Starvo, and he played the list really well. For Jacob, this is the Briar list. Again, on the red side, nothing to see here. Really simple. He's running, everything that most of the Briars running the 2 lead the charges. That's kind of the, I guess, the spicy tech. Not really spicy, but extra tech that you don't see some people run. He's not running any yellows, no Pulse of Candle Hold. I guess he wasn't worried about anything like getting fatigued or anything like that. I like Pulse of Candle Hold in Briar just because you can bring channel back. Or bring something back. So it's really good for that. Personally, not channel, but just bring something back. The one card, and people have argued with this. Yeah, you could bring channel back. The one thing that people were arguing with me on this that I thought was be cool at blue, and be cool to hear people's comments down below, is instead of running one of the earth blues like Tomo Harvest, run maybe So Tomorrow, so you could get channel back into your deck at the bottom of your deck, because then when you play Sonata and shuffle your deck, then there's a chance you could get channel again. I don't know. I don't mind Totem Harvest. It's obviously a good card and you can cycle your hand by drawing 3. I just don't like to have to pitch 3 and get rid of my arsenal to then draw 3 cards. I'm getting rid of 3 cards to draw 3 cards. And it just, I don't know. I don't like the card initially, but I know every Briar runs it, and there's Briar. He obviously got top 4 at the Pro Tour, so it's just something for me to think about for So Tomorrow. I thought it'd be kind of a cool idea. The one burgeoning, they're making up for the Autumn's Touch ban, kind of going in with different cards, so really good. He played the list really well. Force of Nature combined with Channel was just a workhorse, so definitely a good list from him. And then you had William. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If I'm not, I apologize. Really good list. Nothing crazy from here on Prism. Really simple. Like no crazy spicy tech that I saw. Really just a really solid Prism player running a really solid Prism list. So, and then finally Florian, who got in the finals and lost to Pablo. Again, you can look at this list. Not much of fatigue in here. It's more of definitely really going hard on the lottery style, and a lot of the servers did that. His equipment list was very robust as well. But overall, really interesting to see most of the Starvos. None of them had a package for control for chain, which I thought was interesting, because I thought in the last big event, I thought that was kind of Chain's check, was they had to play really perfectly because they could get fatigued by Starvo. So it was just really interesting to not see that as much. But overall, the event was amazing. Channel Fireball did a great job covering the event. No hiccups, nothing crazy. There was a couple times where the stream went down really quickly, but they got right back up and were doing really well. They did filler time really well. All the casters did amazing. And then we had over 2,000 people watching it at one point that I noticed. So that was really cool to see, several thousand people at the event, along with 2,000 people watching. The game's growing so much, it's just nuts. So yeah, so that's my reflections on it. It was sad to not see Katsu do as well, but hopefully he can come back into the fold here soon. We'll see how the PQs go. The one note I have for Starvo, it's gonna be interesting to see, because he's not banned yet. He's hit Living Legend, but he won't be banned until the next ban announcement, so he'll be available for PQs. I don't know who would play him. You could still see him at your locals or your PQ, because I don't think the top players are going to play him, because they're not going to test somebody that's going to be going him off. That's dumb. New players, if they have any good scene at all that tells them what to get, aren't going to play him, because he's going to be gone in a month and they won't be able to play him at events. So I think the only people you'll see playing him is those mid-level people that really, really want a Pro Tour invite, and maybe they just think Starvo is the best chance to get it in this last month. So other than that, I think he will slightly go away. Chain's going to be really popular. Prism's going to be really popular. Briar's going to be really popular. You might see other decks, I think Dash has a chance to come into the fold and do really well. Lexi has a chance to come in the fold and do really well. The meta's wide open. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens going in Uprising. But yeah. That's the video. That's my thoughts on the Pro Tour, and kind of going over, just kind of giving you all a recap on what happened. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this piece of content. If you did, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. If not me, go to another Fleshbug creator, do the same thing for them so we can get more people seeing this game. And I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.